Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike. And before you get too sucked into this awesome interview, do us both a favor and like, subscribe, and share this amazing piece of content. Because I'm here with the one, the only, Rashad!
Hi there. I didn't know
Hi.
if that was my cue or not.
The Q of Qs. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Good. Just sipping a cup of Joe and
I like
talking.
I like that I have roles among the ranks of people, and now I'm only just known by my first name. It's kind of like Madonna, and
Yeah.
that's the only person. Fergie.
I put you a little higher than Fergie.
Okay. Whoa. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, let's see if you can keep that standing and tell us your favorite dad joke.
Oh, well, the thing about, so I don't really like putting things in boxes. So that's kind of me. I understand how boxes work because it helps people get a quicker understanding of something without having to go into nuance. But really, like, any joke is a dad joke once the punchline becomes apparent.
See what you did there.
Wow. So do you want to hear my joke? That's all I got.
That was great. Is there a movie you will never skip when channel surfing?
A movie that I'll never skip. I can't say a movie per se, and really, like, does channel surfing exist anymore? You know? But
Nah, it's more of like a metaphor at this point, right?
yeah, but I am super into this British game show now. That no matter what I'm doing on YouTube, if like one of those pop up in my suggested things, I just watch it, even if I've seen it before. It's called Taskmaster. Are you familiar?
I've seen clips of it, and I think I'm like a big fan of the current host. I think it's like a super tall white guy, right?
Oh yeah, Greg Davies.
Greg Davies.
Yeah,
he's the best.
He's a giant.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think they've been doing a really big social media push on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. So you've probably seen it somewhere. And they came out with their own app, so it's not even on like Netflix or stuff. It's on Amazon. You can buy their episodes individually on Amazon. But they just came out with their own app. So the only thing on that app is their show. Taskmaster or something plus is what it's called. So I bought that, and I'm still watching it on YouTube, and I'm still watching it on that as it's just I can't get enough of that show. So that's what I'm going with.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite underutilized word?
I do. I'm gonna go with facetious because one, I am that often, and two, this is for the word nerds out there. It has every vowel in alphabetical order.
Oh man, my.
And if someone goes the "what about why" thing, then you just switch it up to facetiously, and then and then they have to. They're like, "Oh, okay, that works too."
That's awesome. What would you say is your biggest everyday temptation?
My biggest everyday temptation. I don't know. I guess I would say naps, but I don't nap very well. I could say laying on the couch and not sitting at my computer. I am very oftenly tempted to just not be sitting at my computer for work or play, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because, computers are very good at doing fun things, but I sit at it too much. So
Yeah.
it is now just kind of like enjoying my living room space without any pressures to do work. I feel like that was a cop-out, but that's what
it sounds like a very long-winded way of saying procrastinating.
Whoa! Now One, I'm very good at procrastinating, and that is part of what I do on a daily basis. But that's not where I'm going here. After a fully productive day of work, when I also would like to experience some, entertainment that is computer based. Sometimes I'm like, I can't be here anymore, and I just have to sit on my couch and do whatever it is that is available in my living room as far as entertainment, which isn't much. Really, all there is a television stuck to the wall that I can watch things on. And a lot of times I end up watching Twitch and I just watch other people play video games, which is like me playing them, but without having to sit in my computer desk. Maybe this is just realizing that I need a new computer chair. Maybe that's all this is telling me. I don't know. This is.
You need a second one for work, one for play.
Maybe that is like a really nice reclining one with the drink holder or something and massage, like massager. It could get a little tricky swapping those two chairs out, here and there. But I'm willing to make it. I'll give it a shot.
It's a sacrifice you're willing to make. Growing up, did you have a favorite book?
No, because I'm not really a reader, I know how to read, and I've read many things. I just don't find that reading a book is like a relaxing activity for me. I want to make sure I understand everything perfectly when I consume information. And what that ends up translating to when I read a book is me rereading the same thing over and over and over and trying to figure out if I understand it perfectly, which is obviously not what you're supposed to do. You're just supposed to read it and kind of interpret it immediately as to what it could be, and then just kind of live with that. And I'm like, no, what if that's wrong? So reading then becomes this tedious process that tires me. Now, like I could watch a movie, because if I want to watch a part of it to like say, oh, what's going on in that little corner down there? I'm one of those people that like spot all the little Easter eggs everywhere, because I watch it again and I look for that stuff. It's much easier to do with a visual medium. Whereas if you're trying to read and try to discover all the nuance there, you're going to be there all day. And that's where I end up being whenever, I read a book. So that was probably the longest no you've heard. But
I've got a way to re-ask the question now. Since for your film answer you chose a TV show, and since this you didn't choose a book, I'm gonna meld those two. Growing up, what do you remember being your first like favorite movie you saw where that was like it either captured you or you wanted to rewatch it again, whether for Easter eggs or just because you liked it so much?
And we're talking childhood?
Yeah, the first one you kind of remember just being, grabbed by.
I'm going to go... I don't remember how old I was when I watched it, but do you know Michael Douglas, The Game?
Oh, yeah.
That was like...
Early Fincher, baby.
Yeah, that was like the first movie that I watched and rewatched. It might have been on like VHS, and the VHS might have gotten crinkly and not working properly anymore. Oh man, I'm so old. But that's the one that comes to mind. I also like The Matrix a lot, just the first one. Because I thought it was really.
I love how quickly you put a caveat on that.
I feel
just the first one.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't, you're really setting yourself up for
opening up for ridicule.
Yeah, or just some unwanted conversation. You have to defend something that's really indefensible. But it's just weird that they made that movie and they just only came out with a half of a second movie. I thought it was supposed to be a trilogy. And I heard rumors of like a fourth movie, but actually I did watch the fourth movie, and it was I'm not gonna say disappointing, but it was something. I didn't pay for it, so I'm all right. So back to the answer that your question is the game. Michael
That's
Douglas.
a great choice.
Thank you.
All right, now I'm gonna ask you a tough question.
Oh no.
If you had to evacuate your house, what's the first non-living thing you'd grab and rescue to safety?
Okay, so I have I did some research because I've listened to some of your other podcasts, and
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. You kind of gave me homework too, so
Guilty as charged.
So first off, if I pick something that is in my phone, does that mean that I didn't rescue my phone? The phone isn't inherently part of me. So am I like just sleeping in my underwear, everything's on fire, and I have like 10 seconds to get out and I have to grab one thing?
All right. Well, I'll let you. I like this angle, so I'll let you explore both. Let's say the phone. Let's do two options. One, the phone is like automatically with you. You're in your PJs. It's just in your pocket. Or you falling asleep in your new chair that you just bought while watching Twitch, and it's in your pocket.
Yeah,
so
or it's
we'll
just
do
right
two
there.
realities. Yeah. We'll do two realities where you don't have it, which it sounds like when you don't have it automatically on you, that's your grab. But let's do a reality where you have it. What's the other thing you grab other than your phone?
Oh, yeah. And now that I think of it, probably in both realities, it's not my phone, it's my wallet. just because I don't know if you know how annoying it is to replace the things that you have in your wallet. If you just lose your wallet and you don't get it back, you know how hard it is to replace like your driver's license. You get all your credit cards stopped and replaced. Like,
it does sound tedious, yeah.
Yeah, tedious, and not only that, and I know I'm probably giving some foreshadowing, but just think how many goddamn lines you have to stand in to replace like your driver's license and your social security card. Like, what order do you even do that in? You're not a person anymore if you don't grab your wallet. I can get a new phone. I've dropped my phone places where like I was on a trip, dropped my phone while the Ubers come to get me, so I can't even figure out which Uber it is because my phone's broken. But, I'm still alive. I made it to the place I was going to go, and the first place I went after I arrived was I just went and got a new phone, and it just started working again, Try doing that with your wallet. So everyone that doesn't pick wallet, reevaluate quality of life, and just kind of understand what it is you're really doing to yourself.
All right. Do me a favor. Clear your mind.
Okay.
Now, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say underrated?
Shit. I didn't clear my mind. Let's come back to that. I'll re-clear my mind because you said clear my mind and I didn't, and you asked me that question because I was really trying to remember because I've heard this before because I did the research, I did my homework, but it was last week and I couldn't remember what was coming next.
I love how you're like 50% a great student and 50% a kid with ADD. Like, clear your mind. You're like, okay, I hear you. Wait, What did you say?
Wait, what?
Like, I did the homework.
I did. I thought I did everything you told me to. Now you want me to forget it all? What do you want from me? Okay, wait. What's the question again? Let's try again. I'll just try again. I could probably do it. Clear your mind.
Yeah, clear your mind. Now, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say underrated?
Yeah, that didn't work. I was thinking cheese. That was the first thing that came to my mind was cheese. But I feel like
cheese definitely
is not. Oh, it's not under. Is it properly rated?
I think on an average it's properly rated, but like you've got people that don't rate it highly enough, and then people that overrate it. Right?
Okay, I'm gonna go with pears. Pears seem like they are underrated, and mostly because it's really hard to get that one hour of the day that the pear is actually
pear is ripe.
Yeah, and it's not just like a weirdly shaped apple. But when they are, they're very delicious. And
when they melt in your mouth.
Oh yeah. And you don't want it to get too mealy, right? Because once you wait it too long, that's when you wait the extra minute. It's like, oh, like God damn it!
You sent the text back, and then you to pick up the pair, and you're just disappointed. What would you say is your favorite industry secret or term that's only used in your line of work?
Well, so I did think about this a little bit, and I do work in like video production, live, recorded, stuff like this, except with pictures. And I guess I like one of the things I notice is like when there's someone who's new to the industry in a position of being like an on-air personality, and then the first time they get referred to as talent, they always make that joke. It's I'm talented, blah blah blah. Don't. Are you sure you want to call me talent? Ha 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 ha. But we kind of have to use that word to describe the people generally that are going to be on camera. Else we have all these clunky other names for them. You have the talent, and you have the people who aren't talent, which are also working on the same production. So I don't know that it should be used more, but maybe it should, just so that when people break into the industry, I don't have to fake laugh at that joke anymore.
It's a great term though, and a lot of people don't use that. It is a really cool term that just like, especially considering it's used to usually describe an aspect of a person, like they're talented, like they have talent for this. It's like having it used as a noun before TV, like you have to go back to like biblical times where talent was like a unit of money. So it's really, really cool to read.
You didn't tell me I was going to learn something on this podcast. Jeez.
Yeah, I think like talent is equal to a year's wage or something like that. It's like, it's an odd amount of money that I believe is like ridiculously high, but it's like a weird, like, it's a weird composition of money.
It's 6,000 denarii. Whatever that is.
Sure is a lot of denarii.
Well, that is a lot of denarii. Okay, so it looks like it would be $4,000 in today's
That's a lot of
currency. Yeah, so one talent is $4,000. I take I'll take a talent or two.
I'll take a little talent in my life.
I'll take half a talent. I won't be greedy. I'll share. We could share a talent.
We'll split a talent.
Yeah, I'm in. I'll split it 3 ways.
All right. Is there a piece of advice you've been told over the years that has made the biggest impact on you, or that you find yourself pondering even to this day?
Well, I think the biggest piece of advice, and I don't know that, I'm sure someone told me, because I don't know that I'm bright enough to have come up with this myself. Unfortunately, I won't be able to give credit to anyone, but you can literally learn something from everybody. And it really, like, even that person that you despise or has never feels like they really don't have any value, they never offer anything that means something, there's something to learn from that person as well. Even your elders, obviously, it's time proven, elders have a lot of wisdom, you can learn from them. But even just learning from like a conversation with a toddler, you just learn about brutal honesty and unhindered imagination. One of the studies that was done, and maybe we could do a little test, because it's kind of like a test study game question kind of thing, where I present to you a paperclip. And now you need to come up with as many uses for this paperclip. Just list them. Just give me a few off the top of your head. Just give me some uses for a paperclip.
Okay, keeping papers together, undoing a lock, fastening hair under shitty circumstances, puncturing plastic, resetting an iPhone, resetting an iPod. That's probably good enough.
Yeah,
a shitty grill.
No, No, those are very good options and uses for a paperclip. Now, what this study did was that it asked this question to lots of people across the entire spectrum of ages of people who can recognize what a paperclip is. Uh-huh. Who do you think? Which age group or which age do you think did the best on this test?
I think without helping, I would bet it was grade schoolers.
Grade school. The higher side of grade school or the lower side of grade school?
I think lower side.
So like just entering grade school or?
Yeah, like 1st through 3rd grade.
So you are correct. The younger you are, the better you are at this test. And what this really showed is that there's more imagination. You have more imagination the younger you are. And and that's mostly because our education system beats the imagination out of you, because when you thought of a paperclip, you thought of the little metal thing bent up, fit in your hand. You get a box of them for 25 cents, but you never for a second thought, well, what if this paperclip is like 100 feet long and made of foam? Because then you could use it as like a bridge or a boat or or like some type of other monument, And children, no one has told them that this paperclip can't be those things, but and it just shows that in that stage of life of a toddler or someone going to the 1st grade or kindergarten, there is some honesty and imagination there that we all can still learn from. And maybe you should have more conversations with toddlers so that you can, revisit how it used to be before the, society told you that paper clips couldn't be, 100 foot tall, made of foam. Yeah.
What's your favorite little known fact?
Oh. Well, one, I actually had two, because I think originally your question used the word factoid.
Yeah. So that has since been changed.
Okay, so you
recently
you do know what a factoid is versus what a fact is.
I got instructed. So here's the weird thing. I did get informed that a factoid is a bit of information that is passed as a fact but is in fact incorrect.
Well, it's passed as a fact but not necessarily a fact. It could be true, but it's literally just a word that was invented for publications to use so that what they're saying sounds as if it's true, even though it may not necessarily be true.
Yeah. So I looked that up, and it was kind of interesting because that is the number one definition. The annoying thing is the second definition on Factoid is just fact.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, and the second definition for literally is now figuratively.
Figuratively, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our lexicon is just and lexicons are living, breathing things, and if we say something enough, it gets a new meaning. But that's not my fact. It's not my fact. My fact is that, did you know that nutmeg can kill you?
Nutmeg can kill you?
Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
How much are we talking? Like if somebody dropped it, 20 pounds from off the top of the Empire State Building, or what kind of amount and circumstances?
So nutmeg is a hallucinogen. Mm-hmm. So you can consume enough nutmeg so that you get a nice buzz. But also, there's a thin line between that buzz and actually going crazy and literally dying. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and the amount of it, I don't know if you buy your nutmeg already ground up or like in the whole nuts, but you've probably you've seen like a whole nut of nutmeg, right?
Yes.
So if you ate that much nutmeg, you would die.
Good Lord.
Yeah, but we usually just like sprinkle a little bit on our ice cream or whatever. Just sugar, and no one's going crazy. But just think about that. There is a hallucinogen that you could just get from the grocery store. That if you ate enough of it, you would die. You would go crazy then die. So it's not just like...
What a festive way to go.
Yeah, it's not like you just like go, oh, I feel bad, and then, you're in the hospital to die. You're going to have a time at it. You're going to have a time of your life. The people around you will also, have something memorable and stories to tell. And then you just die, and they're just like, whoa, I thought this was just something delicious that I could have in my eggnog latte. But no, this shit will kill you. I could say shit, right?
Yeah, you can swear as much as you want, Rashad.
Thank you.
It's so funny, the idea of somebody just pounding eggnog and then just going crazy and dying.
Well, I mean, if you put enough like nutmeg to make a crust, maybe a crema of nutmeg on top of it, then you may be getting close to the the go crazy amount.
All right, fill in the blank for me. This weekend was so great. I spent 13 hours.
Well, I mean, I actually did this. I spent the whole weekend sitting on my couch watching Taskmaster. So for now, that's the answer, and it was blissful. Maybe one day, I will be obsessively compulsive about some other television show or activity. Maybe if this were a month ago, it would have been, I was playing TFT all weekend or something, or some other like Storybook Brawl or something. One of those games. Not Magic though.
Those years have gone by.
Yeah, I still, I'll tap a card here and there, but I'm not, I'm not. It's not like the early 20s or the early 2000s or late 90s where it was. Then the answer to the question would have been I was on Magic Online for 13 hours, and loving it. Now I just sit on the couch and watch TV.
So this is going to get a little introspective. But can you think of the first or most impactful memory of when you realized you weren't so alone in a struggle, or were more like everybody else than you had previously realized?
Okay, that's an interesting one. I would say that there were so I grew up extremely poor, like projects poor. And when you're that poor, everyone else around you is also that poor. So you don't really realize that you're this poor because you're just average as seen by, just what you can see. Then I was transferred from my regular grammar school to like a magnet school because, the whatever standardized testing that they had back then, I was excelling in, mostly because test makers are dumb, and really it's just a system you have to figure out how to take a test, right? But that's also that also translates to success in a whole other aspects in life. So it makes sense that if you could figure out their standardized test system, you deserve to, get a boost in your educational track, right? So
Sure.
So I went from my regular school to a magnet school, which was I don't know if you're probably. Oh, I'm in Chicago. So the school I went to, Kentwood Academy, is in Hyde Park, which is partially. It's got some. The area has some poorer parts, but mostly it's the most affluent neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. So now I'm dumped into this world where I realize, whoa, I see all these resources around me, and now I realize that there's a lack of resources. So that's kind of the opposite of what we're asking. But then during, being in that situation, finding other people who were similar to me, coming from impoverished areas, getting the chance to, thrive in the educational realm. So that would be the first time where I was like, okay, I'm not the only person who it seems like I shouldn't be able to afford to be here, or these aren't resources that I should have access to, and understand it. Oh, now I'm not the only person who's gotten a similar opportunity from a struggle that they were, existed in before.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah, that is a very interesting kind of going from nothing's wrong, but not seeing that as a problem to like being put in a situation where it is a problem, or like it becomes more apparent, and then finding, for lack of a better term, your people that are also experiencing that. That's really fascinating.
I'm glad you could get all of that out of my babbling. So,
well, I appreciate your babbling. That was very insightful and very cool, man. Is there a moment that you look back on in your life that fills your chest with pride or brings a tear of joy to your eye?
I am pretty proud of being influential in like the trajectory of just being able to consume Magic the Gathering, through the internet. I don't talk about it a lot. I only really talk about it when someone invites me on a podcast and specifically asks me about it. And you didn't do that. So I'm not saying
not
that.
Yet.
No, not yet. Not yet. You haven't done it yet. But, when I was doing it, at the time, I was just like, all these other games are so ahead in this particular area of, of consumption. And I was like, well, this game at the time was one of my two passions as far as gaming went. The other one being like fighting games and Street Fighter, and they've been on Twitch or whatever the streaming platform was at the time.
Justin
for
TV.
Years. You know what? You say Justin TV, but Justin TV, it existed, but at the time, Justin TV wasn't allowing people to put gaming content.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it wasn't until they created their Twitch.tv was when straight like gaming content was actually allowed on their platform. Before, we would have to use like Ustream. I don't even know if they're still around, like Ustream.tv. And even back in those days, you couldn't even upload video game content on YouTube or Vimeo or any of those other sites because, everything was still so hazy about who owns the rights to, the IP, if you're putting like a game up on there, and none of those platforms wanted to have to deal with that, including streaming platforms. So, and Ustream was the only one that was kind of allowing it, and that's where like all of the gaming stuff was until Twitch/Justin TV then decided, okay, we're gonna try to get into this gaming thing, and really because they were the first ones to kind of embrace it, that's why that's where everyone is, and everyone refuses to leave it. But just getting Magic up to speed with all those other games that I loved. But I'm happy that I did that, and that I appreciate it. People appreciate it, and I think that I made a difference.
I can absolutely attest that you did make a huge difference. I think without you doing that, given the fact that basically nobody else was trying to make that happen with Magic, I think the difference it made for the community and the difference it made for introducing new people, it changed it. You very much changed a large part of this gaming world forever.
Yeah,
and we are very much indebted to you, and I really do appreciate that.
I thank you for those kind words, but I also believe that if I hadn't have done it, it would have happened. I think I just sped it up a little bit. I showed that if I could do it, then hey, you companies that have way bigger budgets than I do should be able to provide
Yeah.
something similar. So, I mean, I see myself as a catalyst, and I'm just happy that now you could just turn on your computer and see someone playing any game you want at any time.
Yeah.
You know, that's the future that
Yeah.
I wanted. You know, even if I didn't realize I wanted it at the time.
Yeah, it truly is so beautiful that like the gaming community, not just Magic, but every other, is like kind of not taking your, baton and run with it, but just, taking that opportunity and that space that is Twitch and just gone, oh, cool, and like move so far forward with it, with everything that's happened. It's just like last night before going to bed, I was watching, was it Games Done Quick, just like a speedrunning thing, which is something that I just like look at, like, it's the equivalency of me watching the Olympics and watching Usain Bolt just like burn past everybody else. It's like watching somebody play a game that I've played before and I'm okay at, and then just like destroy it, like with, I mean, obviously they put in tens of thousands of hours probably, but still just watching them be so excellent at something and just get to sit in awe.
Yeah,
it's so awesome.
I remember watching, I don't know if it was the first one that I watched, but it was the one with the first blind Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Like beating Mike Tyson's Punch Out completely blindfolded, and and I look at myself as a child, with playing on a Nintendo Entertainment System. I could never get to Mike Tyson myself without using the code, and then even with using the code, I couldn't get past the first round. And then I just watched this person on the internet beat the whole goddamn game without seeing what's going on. And then I'm like, what? I guess I should be able to beat the game too now. If this person can beat it without looking at the screen, I should be able to beat it because I'm an adult. And I can look at the screen, So I did try it again. I can't remember what I played it on. Maybe it was on Switch or maybe it was on Wii. It got re-released, and I couldn't get past Soda Popinski, and it was just Popinsking me off, and I was like, what the fuck? I just watched someone play this game blindfolded and beat it without losing once, and I can't beat this guy that drinks soda pop. So yeah, I love that the more modern generation of person is going back in the archives of video games and making me feel bad about my success rates as a a person probably twice as old as they are.
That's great. Lastly, before we throw it to a commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
So, I've probably already dated myself with many of the answers on this podcast. So I'm gonna keep that pattern going, and I'm gonna go with "Hey 19" by Steely Dan. And I know what everyone is thinking. Who are they, and what is that song? Well, you have Google, so you can go ahead and type that in. It sounds just like it. It's spelled just like it sounds. Well, I guess Steely could be spelled several ways, but I think Google got you back. So however you put it in there, it's a great song. I mean, Steely Dan, I don't really pick favorites, but if I had to pick a favorite band, it would be them because they have the most songs that I like. I don't really know anything personally about the band. I mean, someone's named Dan and someone's named Steely. Is that correct? I don't know for sure, but
who knows? Who cares?
Who knows, right?
All right. And with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy the totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy "Hey 19" by Steely Dan. Or if you wanted to hear a song from a previous podcast, check out the playlist on Spotify. Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast, Songwrecks. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you ever find yourself sitting around with an emptiness inside your soul or larger than preferred vacuous space? Would you like to change that? I thought so. Now introducing Stuff. For when you have nothing to do but important things. Stuff. For when you're lacking personality and intrigue. Stuff. When the world has taken a pickaxe-sized chunk out of your heart. Stuff. And if Stuff no longer fulfills these needs, please don't hesitate to look into our life-enhancing product, Addiction. Welcome back, everybody. So I'm here with Rashad. Rashad, what is your passion?
What is my passion? So I remember you asking me this question last week, and I said something that is a very broad subject, which is gaming. And actually, if you were listening to the first half or the first part of this, you probably heard a lot of references to real world activities in a gaming kind of way. So and gaming is just something that's been a part of my life since I can remember. Had Atari 2600, NES, SNES, kind of went up the chain, and gaming was just something that always, I found comfort in it. It was my pastime, even, when you're a child, like, obviously, like, duh, you like playing games as a child. Yeah. But just understanding, and obviously I didn't understand this then, but now understanding that gaming is more than just having fun. It's really teaching you how to exist within rule structures, which is what we do every day in society. So, like,
that's a really cool way of looking at it.
Like if you think you're not a gamer and you're successful at anything in life, you gamed your way to the top of whatever that is. You understood that rule set, and you flourished within it, and that's how you become successful.
Oh, that's such a cool way of looking at it. So, like, life, like a game hack is like a life loophole, basically. Is the way you see it?
Yeah, I mean, there we have rules in society that as long as you stay within them and you do actions which don't break any of those rules, people then think of you as a genius, because you figured out the loophole. I mean, the bigger ones that I could just think of off the top of my head are tax loopholes, which aren't exactly the best example, but there are people who think that billionaires that don't pay taxes are geniuses because they figured out the system and they played the game well. Now, there's some other games that they may not have played as honorably well, to become the billionaire. But once you get the billions and you don't want to give your money back to the government, then you start figuring out all the rules and playing a different game.
Yeah, that's so cool. I had never really put it in that kind of structure before. That's really interesting. So you said you started playing games right when you were a kid, and like on the Atari. Do you remember your first game on the Atari? And do you remember how old you were when you started playing on the Atari?
Oh my God! You want people just to? I'm 44 years old. Let's just throw that out there first, because we're just dancing around it. And
40's the new 30.
30's
the new 20. Yeah. So you basically need an ID to get a drink anymore, Rashad.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. But every time I hand someone my ID, they see the 19 in front, and they immediately just give it back. It was like, oh,
hand it back to you.
Yeah, you're good. That 19 that gets you anywhere you need to know. You need to go. But I'd have to place myself between 4 and 6, 4 and 8, or something like that. That's probably when Atari was out. My favorite game that I remember playing is Cosmic Arc, and basically it was, if you know Atari graphics, you really have to have a great imagination to to see what's going on. You're in this arc, this spaceship that's going from planet to planet rescuing I don't know what type of animal it is. It's just like a rectangle because it's a flashy.
Gotta rescue the rectangles.
Yeah, you gotta rescue the flashy rectangle. That's walking on the surface of this planet. But like you have to travel to each of these planets to do so. So during the traveling portion, you're like this spaceship that's in the middle of the screen, and then you're flying through an asteroid field, and literally it's just like rocks that are coming from either up, down, left, or right, and you have to hit the joystick in the direction that the debris is coming from to shoot it down. And that part kind of could get really, really fast and test your reflexes because it's kind of like juggling on the screen because there's so many things coming left, right, up, and down. And then you get to the planet, and then you're like you send a little drop ship out of your big ship, and you have to use a protractor beam to pick up the little creature that's on the planet, which is just like a flashing rectangle. And then there's like some lasers that are protecting it, I guess, from rescuing it, or maybe it's like you're getting scientific samples or something. I don't know what we're doing on this planet, but we got to get this rectangle. So you have to like fly through the laser field, use your tractor beam to pick it up, and then get back to your ship. And then you just kind of rinse and repeat that forever because Atari games didn't really have a narrative. So you just did the same thing over and over and over until you lost.
Like life.
Exactly. So it's the endless grind.
I looked up the initial packaging, and it looks like, in theory, according to the packaging, you're supposed to be saving T-Rexes, which kind of makes sense with like the laser thing. Maybe you're saving them from like the kind of like the meteor strike or whatever like that. I don't know.
It could be, but there was never any meteors on the planet, and like all the planets were super identical. They had the same laser structure and the same rectangular T-Rexes. So I don't know. Maybe you were just going to the other side of the same planet, and why does the climate change? I don't know. Also, the box art on any video game up until 2010 is 100% misleading because there's no way that the game looked anything like the box
art. It's just
art.
a bait and switch.
Yeah, especially like Atari, because there was no definition in anything. It was just, what color is that square? Is the square longer than it's wider? Because it couldn't make circles. Pac-Man was never a circle. He was like an octagon, So really, you're really testing your ability to suspend disbelief,
Yeah. What do you think it was about gaming that, like, obviously when you're a kid, any kind of escapism, any kind of like fun, especially not having to necessarily like being able to do it for the comfort of your home makes sense. But what is it over the years that has kept gaming so much at the forefront of just, your life and so many of your decisions, whether they be, of the like hobby nature or of the work related nature?
I think the part that kind of connects it all is just the competitive nature of them, and not just beating your friends at games when you invite them over, because I did that a lot, but just understanding or realizing or discovering that there are other people who look at gaming the same way and have and there's this organized structure where you can kind of test your mettle or be the best at something. And I know our connection is Magic, mostly professional Magic, because I don't think we've ever had like a casual game of Magic together.
No.
Those filthy casuals. but like my first competitive game, like my first competitive love for a game was in fighting games, specifically Street Fighter. Like before I played Magic competitively, I would consider myself a competitive Street Fighter player, but like late 90s, early 2000s, it's not nearly the same. That competitive scene is not nearly the same as this one. Like you could hardly. Well, one, there was no internet. The internet just didn't exist. So like
just all local metas.
Right. So the things that happened in Chicago were not the same things that are happening in California. Were not the same things that are happening in New York. But this really interesting thing that would come about because of competitive gaming was there would be regional tournaments in like Chicago, LA, or California and New York, and people would travel to those things. So that was like this opportunity to see what's going on in New York or what's going on in California. Like how are these different people or these different styles of play happening? And even at a smaller scale, just like being in Chicago in the 90s where arcades were still a thing, and there would be multiple arcades in the city, you know, in malls, or maybe it was just like this, maybe it was a pizza joint on the corner that everyone would go to play their competitive gaming at. And just to see how those smaller local meta games just kind of evaluated themselves, and you would like hear rumors of what people were doing at an arcade like 20 miles away, or this new thing that someone in California discovered, and you wouldn't have heard of that like via Twitter or something like that. It was literally all word of mouth. You had to hear that from someone's mouth talking about that, or maybe there could be some stuff written. The internet was in its infancy, so it existed, but the information wasn't as free flowing as it is now. Like now, I could write something that I know thousands of people will read, but back then, you put something on the internet, there was no real way to get to it. It's just like you had to do your own legwork. Hey, read this thing that I wrote, you know. So that the real only way to like find out what the other metagames were was just, you know, going to those places or being in a place where all those things kind of converged. And you know, this is me, 16 years old, pretty good at fighting games. So, you know, I was like a local top player, but obviously when you take all the people who are flying from California and New York, they're really good because they chose to fly to win to win a tournament that, you know, is a local for us, you know. So just that's kind of what wrapped me up into competitive gaming in general. And it didn't really start as me trying to, you know, I'm going to be like an esports person, because that wasn't even a thing back then. It was just me going to various malls in the city, playing against people, meeting people, making friends. Then, you know, people will be like, oh, that's the guy that plays the character that does this thing. You ever see him play? You're not going to beat him. It's kind of like that. And then, you know, then it was like turf wars too. Yeah. You know, like you had your home arcade, but you would be friends with people all over the city. And then you go to like your friend's arcade, which isn't your home arcade. And now you're the enemy. You're still everyone's friend, but everyone's just trying to beat you.
You're encroaching on their territory.
Right. So
come into our house, play our game on our machine, and beat us.
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you go there, you beat one of them, and usually it's like whoever wants to play, you just kind of like whoever's next goes. But then it literally becomes this side of the machine is for the people who the home arcade, and this is like the away side. No, they don't want to play each other. Everyone just wants to beat the intruders. So I think that's what really piqued my interest about, whoa, there's this ecosystem. There's this bigger picture than just me beating my older brothers at home on the Nintendo, because they stopped playing me after a while. They're just like, I'm not going to play you anymore. And then now I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And then I discovered, I could go to malls and play against people. And then I discovered, there's this other bigger tournament scene. And now you look at it today, and like people know about competitive Street Fighter, competitive fighting games. It's just part of the culture now, because we are in the world of esports now.
I think that's like one of the most beautiful things about gaming is that I don't think there's any other pastime that I can really think of. I mean, the closest comparison to finding community in gaming, which is like one of the most beautiful things, and you kind of just elaborated without saying that, is, you know, going there, we're friends, but we're enemies, and kind of getting to know people and having this like common shared interest and this common ground and this thing that we can just talk about and, just talk about it, relish in watching it, and also, deliberate and try to break it down almost scientifically. Like the closest thing that the rest of the world has to the gaming experience is like being a fan of a sports team. Mm-hmm. That's the closest you get to being like a gamer, it feels like, is going to a bar, drinking, being like, I like the Broncos. Do you like the Broncos? We all like the Broncos. And like having that moment. But that's like gaming forever. You don't have to wait till Sunday. Mm-hmm. You just go, you play a game, and you can like meet people with a shared, kind of mindset and just progress as, friends in a society or acquaintances that have a, this shared experience.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
What I wonder now, because when I think of gaming as a career outside of actually playing video games, one of the things that pops in my mind is like day trading or living mm-hmm. within like the stock market, the stock system. And I wonder if, they have conversations about like, the things that they've discovered about certain stocks that are doing well, or just like in general. I don't know enough about the stocks, even though I feel like maybe I should, because it's a game. It's literally just a game where
it's a game.
Yeah, where you can get a lot of money. And so I'm wondering if they have those same like meta game discussions, and maybe that's more like the discussions that professional Magic players have about how they should be sideboarding in a certain matchup.
I think that's true, sort of. One of the things that I noticed, because I've been working in the poker industry since I was 19. Mm-hmm. I'm 34 now, so I've been doing it a minute.
Damn, you're old. Noticed over
the... I know, I'm getting it's a long time.
Do we need to take a break? Do you need to have a seat and rest?
I need to have my second poo and third colonic of the day.
I know, and take an Advil while you're at it.
Yeah, take a bear. But one of the things that is different about Magic, and I hope other games, but Magic has like been probably the one that I've seen the most of, is that there are certain situations that they're not willing to talk about, like sideboarding plans, when there's like so much on the line and they don't want to give mm-hmm. their opponent any intel. But outside of those moments, like after, the big tournament's done, or if it's at a smaller tournament, there's so much kind of collaboration, even between the opponent who you just beat, that when people are willing to set their egos aside and, no, this is a good matchup, and like talk about the cards and have a real conversation, the community as a whole grows, people form bonds, and everything gets better.
Oh, absolutely.
But with poker, that's not the case. And I kind of think that also with Wall Street, that's not the case, because it is definitely, for somebody else to succeed, you are to lose. Because those are always taking away from somebody else. And maybe it's just that Magic players don't see it that way, and that is the case, but, they're kind of blind to it, or that the game is just so different in the way, like, the ecosystem works. But it's really hard to have a conversation, because it's more likely, from what I've seen as being a fly on the wall, as being the dealer, it's more likely that, given the opportunity, they will lie to you. Because they don't want you to get better. They want you to remain bad, or maybe even get worse. I've seen many players, like, a guy loses $1,000 and rebuys and goes, "Oh, I'll buy you a drink." Like, he's not doing that because he's friendly most of the time. Some of them are.
It's to keep the fish at the table.
Yeah, gotta keep them fat,
and loosen them up a bit.
Yeah, get some oil up in that giddy up.
Yeah,
but like with Magic and with gaming, it seems like, yeah, you're going to get better, but if I'm helping you, I'm getting better. And like, it's not about being the best. It's not about standing on a small mountain and claiming you're the best. It's about building the mountain tall and still being on top and being like, it doesn't fucking matter who comes, I'm here to conquer. And so the idea of like making sure your opponents don't grow tall is never an issue mm-hmm. for like Magic and for competitive gaming, as far as I've seen, which is part of what makes it beautiful and so inelastic, and that you don't need to have the idea of having losers like shuffle in isn't like part of the the economy.
Yeah, I think the fact, of like poker and I guess the stock market as well, of being like a truly zero sum game, that the immediate benefits from being of there being a skill gap is more enticing than the actual idea of lifting everyone in the community skill level up, because with the skill gap, no matter how skillful everyone is as a whole, as long as you maintain that skill gap, then you can take advantage of the zero sum game to gain that advantage. Whereas in non zero sum games, it's easier to see the benefits of everyone growing in skill together, because it's not just them that's growing in skill. You're growing in skill too. Maybe they catch up a little bit and the gap closes, but overall, you're all getting better. And actually, like you've seen these things happen. And this is, if you think about gaming pre-internet, like I could talk about it in both like fighting games and in collectible card games, but I'll talk about collectible card games now because that's easier for you to talk with me about. Okay. Whereas before the internet was wild and you could find out what every top 8 deck list was the day after an event, everyone's metagame was literally, it was localized. This area played these decks, that area played these decks, and really you didn't have a mixture of the metagame until there was some larger scale tournament that kind of invited people from all over the world. And in those local metagames, if the people there didn't work together to raise the entire skill level, and instead they just maintained the skill gaps, and so that someone could be like, oh, well, I always win. I mean, I guess you could see it this way. That person who always wins Friday Night Magic, and then they go to a GP and they just get crushed, and then they go back to Friday Night Magic and they win again. It's because their skill isn't growing because they haven't lifted the skill level of all the other people at their local game shop so that they can all grow together. So if you are able to benefit from that skill gap at a local level, in a zero-sum game, there's no benefit to trying to close that skill gap so that everyone gets better. Whereas if you are playing a non-zero-sum game like Magic, and your intention is to then perform at a bigger scale than your local your local group, you really do need to, like, after you beat someone, tell them exactly how you beat them, why they lost, what they should change so that they can get better, and then you can get better along with them, because now you're not just taking advantage of the same mistakes that they've been making over and over, and you're forced to, try to win in a different way.
Yeah. So I want to, for the listeners out there, I want to kind of define zero-sum game. So we've been saying this a lot, and I think it's a really cool thing to understand and know. So zero-sum game is a mathematical representation in game theory and economic theory of a situation which involves two sides. So basically one team versus another team, or one opponent versus another opponent, where the result is an advantage for one side and a loss for the other. If the total gains of the participants are added up and the total losses are subtracted, the sum will be zero.
Yeah, and the easy way to look at that is in poker, where people put their money in, and someone's going to win X dollars, which meant that someone else lost X dollars.
Yep.
Where X's are equal numbers.
Yep.
Which is where
somebody's a 60% favorite and somebody's a 40% favorite.
Yeah.
And like that, it's like that balancing of the scale. So before we go too far past it, I kind of we got a little carried away. What was your Street Fighter champ of choice?
Back in the day. Street Fighter champ. Oh, which character?
Yeah.
See, so there are a lot of Street Fighters, right?
Yep.
Do we need to Should I just do a Street Fighter 101? No, that's too long.
Which Street Fighter were you playing that you were talking about so much that like what was your number one character?
Well, first what I'll say is there's so many types of, okay, so you end up in, there's a lot of fighting games. There's a lot of Street Fighters. I'm going to teleport back to me being 16. At that time, the most recent Capcom offered fighting games because I mostly stuck with the Capcom brand. Not that the other brands were bad. It was just that's what I gravitated most to. At that time, the games that were out were Street Fighter 3 that just came out, and I hated it. And there was the Versus series, which are more of the crossover games where you see like Marvel characters fighting with Street Fighter characters. And the one that was out at the time, X-Men versus Street Fighter. So, Wolverine, Cyclops, and Storm and stuff. And they're fighting Ryu and Ken. Did I actually say Ryu? Ryu. I don't know what type of audience we have. So I don't know if I'm supposed to call it.
I love that you corrected yourself. I'm here for it either way.
I love that I started off with the Muggle pronunciation first instead of, I just didn't want to confuse people. Chun-Li and Chin.
You were looking out for the audience.
Exactly.
They and I appreciate it.
Yeah, if this were like a Street Fighter podcast, I would never.
Ejected.
Yeah. They would have just been like, this interview's over. Right. What are you talking about? But so I will say that in both those games at the time I played Chun-Li. In X-Men vs Street Fighter you pick two characters, so I picked Chun-Li and I can't remember who else. I might play Wolverine. Things have changed. I was young and dumb and had a lot of I was a lot faster than I was smarter, so that changes the characters that you choose in those games. But back then I did a lot of Chun-Li. Not necessarily because I was that I had like the affinity for the character, but just the play style of the character kind of fit with what I was able to excel with, and it also gave me the opportunities to think my way out of situations instead of just reacting my way out of situations, which is kind of a thing. It's kind of like being a sports athlete, right? Like in the beginning of your sports career, if you're just physically talented, you just kind of do all these things because you're stronger and faster than your opponent. And in a lot of ways, I played Street Fighter in that ilk because I was young and I was pretty good at doing maneuvers. The word is execution. My execution was very good. I didn't necessarily have a coherent game plan, but I was just so much faster and had better reactions than most of my opponents that it just didn't matter that I didn't know what I should have been doing. I could just do what I wanted and they would just fall to crumble under the pressure. Like now I can't do that anymore because I'm slow. And
You're old.
Yeah, I'm slow, I'm old. My brain says I did this move, but it didn't get to my hands in time. So I know that like it's like, didn't I? I thought I blocked that, but I thought I did, but my hands didn't block it yet. So I had to change. I have to go in with a more coherent pregame strategy before before I put my quarters in the sticks. And that's actually something that I learned not from playing a lot of Street Fighter, but in the transitional era of my time where I was both playing Street Fighter competitively and Magic competitively. Because
the idea of like sideboarding and like tuning your deck kind of played into that.
It's just that both the game, like one is very much a mind sport. Like it doesn't matter how fast you can shuffle a deck, you can still compete at the same level as someone who can do like sleight of hand or something outside of someone using sleight of hand for nefarious for cheating. Outside of that. But like with Street Fighter, it's mostly like, okay, well, you start off young and fast. Eventually you're not going to be young and fast anymore. So you really need to have a game plan. And there was a point where I was trying to do both. I was trying to be a competitive Street Fighter player, and I was trying to be a competitive Magic player. And it turns out when you do something like that, you just end up being bad at both because you don't give either one enough time. So I ended up quitting Street Fighter in early maybe 19, 20 years old. I stopped doing that competitively and just kind of concentrated on Magic, mostly because there was actually money to be won in Magic tournaments, whereas Street Fighter tournaments, like if you get first place, maybe you get $50, and if you get third place, maybe you get your entry fee back, and that's it. No one else is getting anything. Like at a Magic tournament, you get top 8, and you get like $100 worth of stuff, right? So it just made sense. At the lowest level of a tournament, you get like a box or like a handful of packs, for getting 8th. Whereas you have to like win a Street Fighter tournament to get something equal to that. So I was like, you know what? If I'm just gonna play one game, I'll just play Street Fighter. And then I'll just play Magic. And then Magic came out with what's the block that everyone hated? What did I hate it?
Mirrodin?
No. Before that.
Mercadian Masks?
Yes! Mercadian Mask block came out. And then I played that block constructor, and then at the end of that, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to play Magic anymore. Right? So I stopped playing Magic, and then I went back to Street Fighter, and then something just clicked. Like the fact that just because in Magic you do a lot of prep work. You don't know what deck you're going to be up against, so you have to kind of practice for everything and have a game plan for each situation, each type of deck, even if it's a deck you haven't actually played again. Just kind of like the basic strategy of that deck, you need to have a preconceived strategy for that. And then I went back to Street Fighter. I went, wait a minute, I could have preconceived strategies for every matchup in the game. Why haven't I done that before? It literally just dawned on me then in my 20s. It could have just been because I was older. I just started to think more. But it's the combination of the actual knowledge pre-planning and the physical ability that makes you a great Street Fighter player. And Magic made me a better Street Fighter player. I can't say the Street Fighter made me a better Magic player, but maybe it did. I mean, I'm sure it probably taught me something. I babbled for a long time there.
That's cool. No, it was really fascinating. So before we move on from this passionate segment to something a little bit more preposterous, what would you say is the biggest misconception about gaming by the wider world?
Well, obviously, most of my gaming life, the biggest preconception is that you really can't make a living in this realm. Mm-hmm. Like gaming just isn't something that has a future. In my teen years, obviously there is an allure of working in the gaming industry, especially if it's something that you do all the time and you're good at it. And actually, I live in Chicago, and Chicago is where Midway Games is, which is the company that made Mortal Kombat. And now it's changed hands. It has different names now. I think it's called NetherRealm Studio, but it's still here in Chicago. So a lot of the people, not a lot, but there's enough of the people who worked at Midway as game testers, who would also, they just love games. So those were my friends that we would play video games at the mall or at the arcade or whatever. And that was the mecca, being a game tester. That really was the only path to having a career in gaming without, actually being like a programmer or some other type of upper management or just having funds to produce things. So it's not as big as a misconception now, but maybe I'm still just holding on to my parents not wanting me to fall through the gaps, becoming some arcade bomb that
delinquent.
Exactly, and I feel like I am in some ways a success story, not in the traditional way of, your ability to play the game, or like just your finishes, or you becoming just like a some type of influencer in some way for the game. Whereas I still find myself adjacent to games all the time, even in my work, you know.
Yeah.
So I think I broke that, that stigma. And now, it's actually like an actual job that people are paying attention to and take seriously now. So it's just that I'm scarred. I'm scarred from the 80s and the 90s. Kids, you got it so easy. Like if someone says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I want to be an esports. They're like, oh, they're very good. And then, they don't bat an eye and they go to the next person and ask them. Whereas, 20 years ago, you would get the stank eye,
Yeah. I mean, it's now, it's less like somebody's wearing a tinfoil hat and more kind of, it's like, tell me if you look at it differently, but it's like, it's the same thing as like somebody in grade school being like, I want to play in the NFL, right? It's like, I want to be a pro gamer. It's like,
it is.
Okay,
yeah.
Like,
it might be a little bit easier than that to get into the NFL though.
A little less gym time.
Yes, a little less gym
more
time.
Sit on the couch.
And you can kind of like build your own following, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't really, like if you want to be in the NFL, I think it's harder for you to kind of like grassroots your own type of.
You can't do a workout in your backyard.
Right. You can't stream your own personal training sessions and really get. And they really expect that type of popularity, whereas anyone can go on Twitch and play a game and gain and get a
voted
following.
Onto the Jets.
Yeah,
you can't get voted onto the Jets.
Exactly. I don't think that's happened yet. I'm not saying that it couldn't. I'm not saying that there's someone out there who's so.
We're not going to tell the NFL what they can and can't do.
Right. Exactly. But usually, if someone's physically talented enough to like go on their own and go on Instagram and to show their proudness, they would have already been discovered by some entity, like during school, or like the first video that they post, they're getting tryouts and stuff like that. It's two different it's two different worlds, right? But there is a definite connection as to someone wanting to be in the NFL versus someone wanting to just be the next ninja or something.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on from the passionate to the peeveful isn't a word, but it's as close as we're going to get for a transition. Rashad, what is your preposterous peeve?
Well, I don't think it's preposterous, and you're laughing because I already told you what it is.
You did.
I'm destroying the illusion of this show, but I also hinted at this during one of the other questions that you asked. And my pet peeve, preposterous pet peeve, I don't even know if it's a pet peeve, but it's very peevy.
If you want to feed it and keep it around, it's a pet.
Okay.
So yeah, sure, it's a pet peeve.
I don't know that I want to keep it around, but I think I'm forced to live with it for the rest of my life. But it is waiting in lines. I know that sounds very simple, and people do that.
It sounds
every day.
pretty pedantic.
Yeah, and really, I do wait in lines occasionally, but realistically, I will do whatever it takes to avoid standing in a line. And that.
All right. To give the audience a taste, let me just ask you a series of lines, and if you would be willing to wait in them under the circumstances.
All right, let's go. Let's do this.
I buy you a ticket to Disneyland.
Okay.
Will you go on a ride with me and wait in a 30-person line?
Does it have one of those time things that says how long the wait is?
Let's say it's broken.
It doesn't. So it doesn't tell.
It doesn't tell you.
And I can visually see that there's a line.
Yeah, it hasn't moved for. We stand in the back. It hasn't moved for 2 minutes.
No, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done. And the thing is,
what is the amount of time that it could say on the like this long until the next one or whatever?
Okay.
For you to stay in the line, where's the break even point?
3 minutes for 3. but this is also a thing. Okay, so if the line, let's say it is a really long line, but it's just constantly moving, like it never stops. Yeah. I would wait in that line. If there's if it's a line that, even if it's one of those lines that's like stagnant and then they let 1,000 people in and it chunks up and then it's stagnant, like if I'm by myself, and let's say that I'm by myself and I really, really, really want what's at the front of that line. Mm-hmm. I would wait not in line until the line either disappears or gets really, really short. And then I'll get in the line, knowing full well that the total amount of time that I've waited in this scenario is way longer than what I would have waited if I had just gotten in the goddamn line as soon as I went there. But I have this peace of mind. There's this peace of mind that comes to me knowing that I had that time. I claimed it back. It was my time. It's more time, but I didn't give that time to the line. The line does not deserve my time. Now, I'm going to put a caveat on this, and I know you have a list of scenarios, and we're going to get back to those.
Okay.
But let's say if it's like a group of 5 people, and we're all in the place, and there's a line, I'm not going to be the one. I'm not going to be that guy to be like, no, we're not. Y'all 4 people. No, you're not having fun. We're not waiting this line. I'll just shut up and wait in the line.
Team player.
I'm a team player. But if it's like, if it's by myself or it's 1-on-1, there's a chance for me to get you out of that line, I'm going for it. If I'm by myself, ain't in the line. If I'm with someone else, I really need to gauge how important whatever it is at the end of that line is for you. And then maybe that will change my mind. But let's get back to your questions. I don't want to like.
No, you're good. So when did you first? There's some other questions I want to get answered for sure before we go back to the potential things. But you keep answering them by like, giving your 2 cents. So when did you first notice this was like a big hurdle for you? Was it like when you were going to school as a kid, waiting in the lunch line? Did you ever just like sit, wait for everybody to go and go last, knowing that very well you might not get the meatloaf and you might be stuck with the hot dog?
No, it's not anything that long ago, and I don't think it's very recent either. Like I don't have, there's not this moment where I know it just happened. And really, it took me a long time just to get to realizing that this is actually a pet peeve of mine and that it's quite ridiculous. But, you know, and there are moments, like in the moment when I am actively waiting outside of the line for the line to be short enough for me to get into it. And during those moments, I know for a fact that I would have been done much quicker if I had just waited in that line, but I just can't. I can't do that. And I think where it started to really rear its head, its very, very ugly head, this line waiting thing that I have, is when I started traveling a lot more for work. So maybe like 7-ish years ago. You know, you go to the airport, and when you visit the same airport as frequently as I used to, you get some routines, and my routines were like, go to the Starbucks, go to this thing, maybe go there. And then I started realizing that I would go to one of the Starbucks at O'Hare, which there are like 3 per terminal, and I would go to the Starbucks and I'll see a line, and instead of waiting in that line, I'll go, I'll just go to the next Starbucks. You know, and the next Starbucks is like all the way at the other end of the terminal. But I'm going there, I'm walking all the way to the other end of the terminal. And I know for a fact, by the time I get to the second Starbucks, which I don't even know whether or not it has a line, but the amount of time that it's going to take me to get to the second Starbucks, I would have had my coffee at the first one. But that's not stopping me. That's not giving me joy. Waiting in that first Starbucks line is not giving me joy. Walking to the second one gives me the hope of joy that, this one may not have a line, maybe it's shorter. And most of the time, it's got a line. So I have to decide, am I going to wait in this line or if I'm going to try a different Starbucks? And it's really a coin flip when we get to me getting to the second or third Starbucks. But it depends on how much time I have at the airport, I usually get there and give myself an hour to just kind of like be there and not wait in lines. Especially since I already waited in like the security line. So I'm already, I've had it up to here. So I'm not going to wait in the line for pleasure after I had to do one for work.
Okay, so back to theoreticals. You're standing in line to see either a favorite movie, favorite Broadway show, whatever your, viewing preferences.
Okay.
They tell you, let's say you paid like $100 for your spot. You've already pre-bought and you're just waiting in line.
Yep.
And they say oh, sorry, there's some issues. You're going to have to wait 45 minutes. Or you can pay X and come in right now. And we've got a couple spots seated, and then you can be set and you don't have to be waiting in this line. The rest of you, sorry, you're going to have to wait. What is the most you would pay to be just done with that 45-minute line?
Okay, so I need a question. I have to ask maybe two questions.
Yeah.
One, am I alone?
Sure.
Okay. Two, what's the experience if I pay this extra money? Am I just sitting in a chair for 45 minutes instead of standing in line for 45 minutes?
Yep.
Or am I getting some type of content during that 45
No.
minutes?
You're just, you can have your phone, chat with other people that would be sitting around you, but it would just be, instead of being in line, just be sitting in a chair waiting.
Okay, so let's say, so something's delayed for 45 minutes, and they're essentially you have to wait for 45 minutes. Now, if I decide not to wait in the line, but also not to give them money to wait inside, after that 45 minutes, do I just get to walk in?
No.
What happened?
You're closed out. You would have to walk outside, and they're not going to let you back in once you walk outside.
Okay, so I'm stuck in this place.
Yeah.
So the options are stand for 45 minutes or sit for 45 minutes.
Or just, call it a day.
Or just leave.
Just leave, yeah.
Or just
leave and eat the 100.
Just eat. How much do I like this thing?
It's it's something that you pre-ordered.
Okay, so I'm priced
months in
in
advance.
So I'm priced in. Okay, so I'm probably not gonna just leave. So this scenario, in my mind, there isn't really a difference between where I wait, because no matter which.
Oh, it's still waiting.
Yeah,
for
I'm
you?
still waiting.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for 45 minutes to get the content that I paid for. So there isn't. The difference is if I haven't already paid for that content, would I wait 45 minutes for the option to pay for this content, or would I wait 45 minutes to pay $100 for the content? Or if I could get that content immediately for $500, I would probably.
You'd pay it?
It depends on if it's something I really, really like. I mean, $500 is a lot. That may be too much. I may pay $200. I may pay $200 to immediately get the content instead of waiting 45 minutes. And the thing is, it doesn't matter. It's not the physical aspect of me standing in a line. It's my committing this time to someone or something without immediate return. So, here's another example that isn't really a line in the sense that we're thinking of it, not queuing up for something, but
sure.
Let's say, you're in California. How's the traffic? Yep. How's the traffic there?
Not the best.
Okay, so you know how you kind of get on the expressway or the freeway or the interstate, whatever word you use locally to describe that stretch of road. And sometimes it's like just bumper to bumper, and you're going 10 miles per hour, and the stop and go. But it's still the shortest way. It's going to take you an hour and a half, but it's going to be brutal gridlock all the way there.
Yeah.
And any other option, let's say there's an option that's like, no one else is taking this road, it's just clear driving, but it's going to take you 3 times as long. I would drive in that 3 times as long run. Because I'm not waiting behind all these cars. I have this freedom.
I'm the master of my own
destiny. And obviously that makes zero sense, except for it doesn't make sense timing wise because I'm losing way more time. But I just feel better. It makes better. Me feel better to not be restricted. Maybe it's just other people. Maybe it's when other people are in the way is
constantly just screaming Braveheart,
It's something like that. I just need to feel like I can move at my pace.
Yeah.
To get to what it is that I want.
Rashad is a trendsetter, regardless if he's the only person using the trend that he's setting.
Yeah, it's like I would drive 4 hours within no traffic instead of 1 hour in constant traffic happily, and I would smile the whole goddamn way. It would feel amazing. And I don't know if you consider that a line, but I have the same gut reaction to both of those
it's so beautiful.
Realities,
Yeah. All right, and with this smile on my face of the visage of Rashad smiling on a 4-hour drive.
It's so peaceful.
We're going to head to our second ad break. But don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Rashad is going to enter the lightning round.
Oh, shit.
See you. Have you ran out of new stuff to do, rendering your life wholly unsatisfying? Do you have too much time on hand and have no idea what to do with it? Or are you just plain over this existence and wish for a plane with more intrigue? Might I introduce you to Addiction? Addiction deals with all these problems and more. Had to meet your significant other's parents and would rather not? Addiction. Had to go to work for the 3rd day in a row? Addiction. Rent? Why not? Addiction. Addiction cannot be held responsible for your choice of choosing to imbibe in addiction. Any and all life-destroying fallout as a result of addiction cannot be legally pinned on addiction. But you're more than welcome to try. And we are back. Rashad, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round?
Well, that commercial break was pretty short, but I did some cramming, so hopefully I do okay.
All right. Put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock.
All right.
Rashad, is there a God?
Not really.
Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Is there a difference? I'm going to go with Shakira with Danny DeVito's voice.
All right. Have you ever paid more for a meal than you made in a week?
Well, I've lost some very expensive credit card games, so yeah.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
I'm going to say another amazing thing.
Are hot dogs sandwiches?
I have to say no, because if I were on my deathbed and I asked for a sandwich and someone brought me a hot dog, I would fuck them up.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
I mean, that's not really something to fist fight over, but I don't want to. I would say I don't really want pineapple on my pizza. I'll have a slice, but I'm not fighting anybody about that.
If you had the power to see the future but couldn't change it, would you use it?
Oh, hell yeah. Knowledge is power.
Kill the spider or get an adult?
I I kind of just leave them alone. You know, they eat the other bugs that I don't want in here. And I'm an adult, so I'll say, get me. I'm the adult that I get.
Is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No. Well, no, there isn't.
Kanye.
Fuck him.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
I mean, I've helped other people cheat. I guess that's cheating.
Which do you max out first? Intelligence, charisma, or strength?
Charisma. We talk our way out of some stuff.
Are we alone in the universe?
Not at all.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Fran. She's kind of funny.
Are Cheez-Its addicting?
Cheez-Its?
Mm-hmm.
No, I could take a sip and put it down. I don't have a problem.
Make the food or do the dishes?
I like cooking. I'll make the food.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I'm gonna say 100 duck-sized horses because I think I could give one of them a good wallop and the others would learn.
They know
they know what's up.
Would 16-year-old Rashad be proud of where you are today?
Absolutely.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
I think I create them.
If you have to only have one for the rest of your life, which would you rather have, rice or pasta?
Rice.
Would you put your brain in a robot body if you could?
Maybe eventually.
The two are powers. You can only choose one. Shape-shifting, but only into a chair, or super strength, but only when you're super tired.
Why the fuck would I want to change into a chair? Is it any type of chair? Do I pick the type of chair, or is it like...
Yeah, any type of chair.
You know what? I would go with the chair thing just because I'd want to try to break that system.
If someone you cared about asked you to help them cover up a murder they had committed, would you help them?
No. Can I... Well, ultimately, no.
Okay. Would you rather punch a capybara or hug a boa constrictor?
I'd hug a boa constrictor, like a small one.
Would you rather be followed around by someone playing the tuba or followed around by someone doing freestyle jazz poetry for the rest of your life?
Probably the jazz poetry. I think the tuba would be annoying, and at least the poetry could get interesting every now and then.
Would you rather have flight or invisibility?
Invisibility.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
I mean, sushi's my favorite food, so that would be pretty easy. It probably costs that much too. So yeah.
All right, congratulations.
You survived the lightning round. Yay!
What lightning round question would you like to ask me and in turn be asked a future guest?
Ooh, I'm going to go with, if you had to choose one, would it be vests or opera gloves?
So I'm going to say opera gloves, because I don't think I could pull off either, but at least with opera gloves, I can wear other things and put my hands in my pockets.
Well,
and like that way, it's like kind of
so
hidden.
But you the part of it is you can't hide the fact that the glove goes all the way up your arm.
Oh.
So it would have to be.
I couldn't wear like a jacket or anything like that.
You can wear a jacket, but the opera glove has to go over the sleeve of the jacket.
And same with vest. You have to wear the vest on the outside of whatever hoodie.
Yeah, and you have to be bare armed.
Oh Oh no. I'm still going opera glove. Like, get a little bit more pizzazz in a vest.
It's a conversation. When someone wears a vest, you just think that they've given up in life. Vests are like the sweatpants for your upper body, right? Like especially those fleece ones. If you come rocking the opera sleeves, someone needs to know like how fancy you really are.
You're gonna make friends. You're gonna make friends fast.
Exactly.
Or enemies even quicker. I don't know. All right. Anything you want to plug, recommend, places people can find you or your content?
Well, you can find me on most social media with my full name, Rashad Miller. Either Rashad Miller, I think that's the Twitter, and Rashad.Miller Instagram, Rashad.Miller on Facebook. When I was a content creator, you can find me at GG's Live on YouTube. So a lot of my if you're interested in competitive Magic and you want to see kind of like, I guess it's kind of like the history of it, because I guess stuff going on
baby,
to maybe 2010. Just check out youtube.com/GG's Live, GGSLIVE, and you can see what I used to do every weekend of my life.
Hashtag the good old days.
Oh, yeah. The good old days.
Well, thank you, Rashad, for being my guest today. And a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home or wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our first patron, Sibeliello. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And remember, folks, you don't say 3 when you're golfing, nor do you walk backwards when you're going downhill. So why should I say Gesundheit when it's clearly allergies?